Well, we've waited a long time for the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Did I enjoy it? Who do I think maybe this movie is for? Stick around and I will share my thoughts. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, here with my uncut review of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The synopsis on IMDb reads, "The story of the Super Mario Bros. On their journey through the Mushroom Kingdom." And then further down, a little bit more helpful, the storyline is written as, a Brooklyn plumber named Mario travels through the Mushroom Kingdom with a princess named Peach and an anthropomorphic mushroom named Toad to find Mario's brother Luigi and to save the world from a ruthless, fire-breathing Koopa named Bowser. Yeah, I guess that was the story, kind of. There's a whole lot that's packed onto that skeleton. What is this thing? What does this feel like? It's made by Illumination, who is probably most well known for the Despicable Me kind of series of movies, the Minions movies, and they also did Sing and I think The Secret Life of Pets. But they're really a well-respected animation studio, and I actually tend to prefer their movies over Pixar in the last, I don't know how many years. This is basically Mario lore from the entire franchise of all kinds of Mario games put into a blender set on high, and then the results are vomited out to flesh out this bare skeleton of a very basic plot. Mario, at the beginning, I guess, feels undervalued for his lack of business success, so that's the down on his luck aspect of our hero. He's got a heart, though, to help people. He's just not necessarily successful as a plumber in doing that. But then Brooklyn needs help. There's weird stuff going on, and Brooklyn's in danger. So he's like, we're going to go and save Brooklyn. But how much of that is motivated maybe by his desire to get his small startup company on the map? I don't know. That's not really developed like many aspects of this movie's story and characterizations. But in the process of trying to help Brooklyn, he discovers this magical mushroom kingdom that needs help. And I think at his heart, Mario is a guy who wants to help people. I would argue that's maybe why we're supposed to think he's a plumber to begin with, but I don't know. Again, not very developed. He teams up with Princess Peach in the Mushroom Kingdom against Bowser, who wants to marry Princess Peach in a very kind of mustache twirly classic melodrama villain kind of way, and also of course wants to conquer her kingdom. Really, I felt like this movie was one very cartoony scene of action and comedic gimmicks stapled to another, while trying to cram in as many creatures, characters, concepts, and musical themes from all of Mario history as they possibly can in the roughly 90-minute runtime. I think your enjoyment of this movie massively depends on pre-existing knowledge of and investment in Mario games. And this is significant because that's not the case in other Illumination movies that are their own original intellectual properties. They're developing their own characters, presenting them freshly to you for the first time, where you have no background knowledge, unless we're talking about sequels and spin-offs and that kind of thing. But it's massively, I think, dependent on your previous knowledge of and investment in these characters. And I think that they're also limited by those portrayals in the past of the various games that have come out, so that the characters, apart from Bowser, I don't think can be quite as quirky or interesting or well-defined compared to other Illumination movies like the Despicable Me franchise, like Sing, like The Secret Life of Pets. I think that, what I noticed was that kids and preteens in my theater noticeably laughed more and more loudly, more frequently than the adults did, although adults were still laughing recurrently. I predictably, because of my cold dead heart, I guess, laughed almost never, although it did get a few chuckles out of me here and there. Bottom line, if you already love Mario and want to see a movie that is largely faithful in celebrating Mario history and that rewards your investment in the Mario franchise of games, then you may find a lot to enjoy here. Now, if, like me, you have almost no personal investment in Mario other than a little nostalgia from the distant past, it may feel like an experience not made for you. I definitely felt like I was not the target audience for this, and I didn't expect that I was the target audience, but I largely attended this to have an experience with my boys after my wife and I got back from this big trip, the longest we've ever been away from them, and so it was neat to kind of celebrate being back with them again by going to see this movie on opening day. That's why I was there, you know. Also, you know, compared to other Illumination movies, I don't think it has near as much adult level humor or perspective as other Illumination movies. One example would be like the character of Gru in the Despicable Me movies. If you are a parent, you can, although he's this very exaggerated version of what you would feel as a parent, you know what it's like to just put up with the various hijinks and antics and you know, immaturity of kids, and have to be patient with them, and to, when you're reading books to them and like, this is the lamest book in the world, you're not necessarily going to say that out loud. Hopefully you won't, because you're reading it for your child to enjoy, but Gru voices those things. And so as an adult, there are things that you can appreciate that are written into the script for you to appreciate on your level that kids aren't really going to appreciate. There's not near as much of that in this movie compared to what I have seen in other Illumination movies. And so I think it reads to me more like a kids/teens movie than something that will appeal more equally and broadly to like a whole family and a range of ages, such as in the Despicable Me movies. As far as the cast goes, you know, these are big shoes to fill, and you know, controversially to some hardcore fans of the video games, you know, they didn't use the voice actors that have played Mario and Luigi in the games. I think one of them is actually, I think the voice actor playing Luigi has passed away anyway. The voice actor who plays Mario in the games does, I believe, have a bit part in this, which I think is kind of a tip of the hat and a nod to him. But, you know, Chris Pratt is playing Mario. How does that play out in my estimation? Well, I think that they found a nice middle ground for the voice of Mario. The traditional voice, the "It's a me, Mario," that high-pitched, almost Mickey Mouse, very cartoony, simplistic voice is referenced early on. But to create a relatable character that can even a little bit relate to the average viewer, or when you're going to have a complex story and you want characters that are a little bit more fleshed out than just a cute mascot that jumps around, with a few maybe little personality quirks here and there, when you're going to flesh out and have something more than that, it's understandable that they eased off of the cartooniness and looked for something that was a step back from that. And on a meta level, there's some jokes early on that kind of reference the fact that they are doing that. And I feel like, at least from my perspective, it's easy to get on board with the approach that they were at least aiming for here. Jack Black is a standout to me, playing Bowser. They do, I think, put a little filter on his voice to just shift it down a half step or a whole step in pitch. But it's still Jack Black, especially in some of the musical things that he does. There's some Bowser is a singing character that uses music to express himself now and then, and they're very much just letting Jack Black do some of his Tenacious D shtick that he's known for. Likewise, Seth Rogen, who plays Donkey Kong, now and then has these little moments where you hear his very trademark kind of traits in his voice and in his performance style. And I think those maybe are some of the things they did with casting here. That's the furthest I think this movie goes to kind of reach out to adults. Because in terms of what the performances were doing, you don't need Anya Taylor-Joy to play Princess Peach. You don't need Chris Pratt to play Mario. I think they could have had unknowns do what these actors did. And so the only reason that they're cast is on a meta level for maybe the younger viewers that are tuned in to being aware of who Chris Pratt is in terms of the Marvel movies and stuff like that, and for the adults who maybe know Jack Black and Seth Rogen from the other movies that they've been in and kind of appreciate what they're doing here. But I mean, really, that's the most that they're doing, I feel, to reach out on a meta level to adults. But other than those two performers, Jack Black and Seth Rogen, I didn't feel like the performances all felt a bit vanilla for me, despite the fact that their characters were still written and animated to do some interesting things. So yeah, I didn't, but I mean, a lot of that I think comes down to the fact you're dealing with this pre-existing IP. You can't really go off the beaten path that much with Mario, or you're going to get in trouble with Nintendo. They're going to be very choosy about what they let you do, what they let you create, and decide, oh yeah, we never knew this about Mario, this character trait. When you're fleshing it out in this format, Maybe that's why they didn't focus on story and they just crammed as much in there as they possibly could, because there wasn't much room to do stuff with these characters because of the hold that Nintendo has on their IP. I really have no idea. It would be very interesting some years down the line when we can get the real skinny on how this movie was made, what the limitations were, and what their reasoning was for their choices. Maybe some of that would come out in the commentary, but I would imagine it would have to be pretty restrained. We'll see. Anyway, as far as the visuals go, of course, it's a CG animated, Pixar-ish, Illumination, actually, animated movie. Once you're in the Mushroom Kingdom, which you get to pretty early in this movie, it's just a visual spectacle of Mario lore, densely packed from start to finish. There's so many Easter eggs and so much things going on in even a single frame of this movie. There's just a lot to take in. I think on a visual level, in terms of all the little Easter eggs and things that they put into this movie, you could watch it again and again and pick up more things as a Mario fan. My boys were already picking up on a number of things that I certainly didn't. There are classic elements in countless variety that are given new cinematic life, just as because of now there's a camera that's in a 3D world is going to be constantly used in a cinematic way, compared to a video game that's going to just mostly be static over the shoulder or maybe side scrolling. When you have a camera now to tell a story with or to do action beats with, all of these kinds of gimmicks and elements from the games have a new life to them. Things we take for granted, like power-ups, are given some visually cool, dramatic moments in this movie. Animation quality, it's the top tier I'd expect from Illumination. As far as music, I don't always talk about music and sound effects. They definitely represent and reference classic sound effects from the games. And even more than that, I noticed, I couldn't count how many musical themes and musical motifs from the franchise were represented. There are many rewards here for fans who know the music of the games and are tuned into that. But they're also extremely cut up and sampled. You'll just get a brief statement of maybe the underground theme from Super Mario, level 1-2, but it won't really stay there for very long. Now, part of that is because, especially the older themes, are very short and looped, and so there's not much variety. There's not much you can do with them. But it was cool to see how many they crammed in there, even though I just wanted this movie to breathe a whole lot more. Why don't we just develop this theme and reorchestrate it and stay on this particular theme for a while? But instead, there was just little snippets, and they would sometimes very jarringly go from one snippet to the other in a way that I was like, that's not really working for me. What would this score sound like to someone who has no history with Mario? Well, I think like much of the movie, if you have no history with Mario, you're just going to kind of like smile and be like, wow, that was really something. I know I saw and heard a lot of things. So really, it's kind of a mixed bag, and it just depends on who you are and your attachment to the series and association with its musical themes. But one theme of a classic power-up in the game is given this cinematic orchestration combined with a climactic moment in the movie, and in a way that almost made me tear up with how it captured in a new way the feeling of getting that particular power-up in the game. So, a mixed bag, but yes, definitely some great moments for me. Okay, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? I always like to try and be thinking along those lines with the entertainment I take in. Here, I think the story is so unfocused that it's hard to see or feel any strong themes emerge. Mario is underappreciated by his family, but ultimately gains their appreciation when he comes out as the hero in the end. I don't think that's a spoiler. You know that the good guys are going to win in the end, and the underdog is going to come out on top somehow. They're not doing anything thematically complex, nor should any of us expect that. But what does that kind of arc really suggest thematically? It's not really clear to me. So it's because the movie is so all over the place, there's no time for characters to really develop much, let alone any kind of thoughtful themes. Okay, so I have no idea what your tastes are in video game movie adaptations, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, well, watch this one with your boys. It's made for them, not for you. Unfortunately, they're going to be itching and begging to see this movie So you're going to have to see it in the theater with them probably. And just brace for the theatrical experience of a movie filled with teens and children, teens who won't shut up, and little kids kicking the back of your chair throughout while oblivious or uncaring adults fail to take action. That's just what you're in for. Actually, despite that, I was able to get into a mindset of, you know what? Let's just imagine you're bumming around with extended family. You're not super invested in having this pure experience with this movie anyway, so just let go. I think if it was a movie that I was more likely to enjoy at the outset, I think those things would have been so much harder to deal with. I was able to quite a bit let go and just like expect that about every 20 seconds I was going to get a little kick to the back of my chair, and about every 10 seconds there was going to be some little murmured comment from below and to the left of me between two guys in their early teens, you know. So, but that's just part of the experience, I think, if you're going to see this in theaters, unfortunately, these days. But yeah, it's for your boys. It's not for you. And if you expect that and are willing to put out the money and time for that experience, then you'll get about what you would expect. It's rated PG for action and mild violence. And those are all my thoughts for now on the Super Mario Bros. Movie. All right, let's give this a try. Right now, I'd like to take some time to write a tune for pre-made rhyme. Actually, I'm not writing this, but whatever. Lyrics kind of never change, but the melody gets rearranged. I never know what I'll create to say how much I appreciate Dan, Excel, Gabriel, Stinson, Brian, Franklin, Olin, D. Branham, Drew, Rub, Winston, Crutch, Field Libre, Justin, D. Myers, Cosmic Fox, and Joel Nelson. Thank you for supporting me and SBP and CGC. And now to all hear this tune, thank you as well. Please come back soon. Want to hear your name in song? Check out our page on Patreon. Good gravy. What the crap am I doing with my life? I'd love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making so much of my content possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/spiritblade productions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.